Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Eddie. Morning, Aldo, Lauren, Michelle. I think that is everyone I can see. Hi, Lauren. Hey, Aldo. How are you guys?
Hi, good, thanks.
Good.
Well, let's get started. Are we, Michelle and Carrier Candace is on. Are we all set to go? Are we streaming?
We're all set to go, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Candace. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will bang my virtual gavel for this virtual hearing of the Environment, Sustainability, and Parks meeting. I'm the President Pro Tempore of the Council, as well as Chair of this committee. This hearing is being recorded. It's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv, as well as broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. Today we'll be discussing Docket 1013 regarding a $750,000 federal land and water conservation fund grant for the Malcolm X Park, formerly known as Washington Park in Roxbury. This funding will supplement the $6.65 million the city is investing in this large, popular, and historic park deep in the heart of Roxbury. This funding, which has been awarded by the National Park Service and administered by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, will target increasing the availability of recreational opportunities at this beloved park. Malcolm X Park is located one house lot away from the landmark home of Malcolm X's sister, where he briefly lived and frequently visited. Delighted to have Aldo Guerin, who is the Senior Planner for Parks and Recreation, as well as Lauren Bryant, who will be answering our Q&A. She is the project manager for this as well. We are also joined by City Councilor Ed Flynn from District 2. And Councilor Flynn, I didn't know if you had any opening statements or opening remarks before we get into it.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. I have no opening statements other than to say thank you to the dedicated team from Parks that are making significant improvements. It's a wonderful park and people love the park. So I just want to say thank you.
Well said. Here, here. Well, if we may have some more councilors join us. I will note that Councilor Braden has submitted a letter, which I will briefly read. It's just 2 sentences long. Dear Chair O'Malley, I regret that I will not be able to be in attendance at today's Committee on Environment, Resiliency, and Parks hearing on Docket 1013 regarding a grant to be used for ADA accessibility improvements at Malcolm X Park. I look forward to reviewing the committee report. I ask that you please submit this letter into the committee record. It is hereby submitted. Thank you, Councilor Braden. And again, we may have more councilors join us, but we will get started. So Aldo, the floor is yours. If you had any presentation, please feel free to give it. And then I'm sure Councilor Flynn and I may have some questions. So thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Councilor Flynn, I wanted to give a little brief presentation. Let's see, do I have, yes, I have screen sharing. So let me get to the material here. So I have 6 slides in this deck. This first slide here, well, before I launch into this, I just want to say that this grant is for $750,000 for a project that overall will cost over $4.5 million. So, you know, it's not bearing the biggest share, but it certainly is contributes to helping us, make this a more complete and full renewal of the park. So, wanted to go over this existing conditions and that talk about not only the what are deemed as whatever deficiencies, but also the opportunities. And as Councilor Flynn mentioned, it's a really great park. It's, it was called Washington Park originally. I think pretty much most of the vegetated section you see in the upper kind of 2/3, that was more or less the original Washington Park. The lower third, where you see most of the, the courts and the play area, that was added in the 20th century through the Urban Renewal Project, under the BRA aegis, as well as the field that's in the upper left corner. What we, as I mentioned, this original park has beautiful views, not only out to various parts of the city, like downtown, but also within the park, besides the vegetation itself. The outcroppings of Roxbury pudding stone are very attractive. And as most Bostonians know, Roxbury pudding stone is unique to this area. In other words, nowhere else on earth will you find Roxbury pudding stone except the Boston metropolitan area. As I mentioned, the mature, tree canopy is definitely an asset, particularly given the heat island concerns with climate change. And but one thing that I wanted to start to mention is how, thanks to the ADA law, all of our projects now have to meet ADA requirements, and pretty much except for one entrance, and that's near the children's play area, all the other entrances are not ADA accessible. The features in general, the courts especially, are not ADA accessible, and a lot of the paths are not accessible. So the paths that you see in orange, they're not accessible, and the arrows that you see at entrances that are just outlines, those are also not accessible as well. So there's a lot of ADA issues with this park, and it doesn't just affect people in wheelchairs, people, mothers with strollers, people with all sorts of people with mobility disabilities have issues. So, and yet at the same time, because it's an older park, we want to keep as much as possible the fabric of it. And so, thanks to creative designers and our project managers like Lauren, we're able to figure out ways to maintain the original fabric and yet also create accessible ways of accessing the features. Let me give you some hold on, pictures of what conditions currently look like here. You'll see, on the upper left there, those are, again, not accessible because of the steepness, which is, in a sense, partly necessitated by the topography. You'll also see there are these concrete swales that are not very attractive, and they also, are features that are no longer functioning well, particularly when we want to try to retain stormwater within our parks rather than sending it to the storm sewer system. Doing that, means more burdens downstream when we have flooding issues, throughout the city, thanks to climate change. Other, features, you see the railing here, that's obviously in poor condition, bollards that are not very attractive, obviously pavement that needs to be repaired. The walls, however, the stone walls, very attractive feature. They're almost all of them are in very good shape, but they're also oftentimes accompanied by concrete walls that are, don't fit in with the naturalistic character of the park. I have another set of photos here. Same thing. Maybe, I don't know, Lauren, can you explain this? What picture in the middle here that where there's a a barrel, trash barrel, and then this at a grade above it, an opening, and it just looks like a disaster waiting to happen. What does
It is. Yeah, I'm happy to explain that one. Like Aldo said, the grading and the ADA accessibility of the existing park is really challenging here. It may not seem like it, even though it looks really hilly. There's a 90-foot grade change over the entire park from high point to low point. So you run into a lot of issues like this area, which is looking from standing in the basketball court, looking up towards the roadway. And that is a drop off, there's no railing that goes across. There's a drop off that goes down to the court. And one of the things that we'll be doing is that each of the courts will be accessible, not only from the park side, but also the roadway side in the new design. So Aldo, that's what that is the grade change coming from the road, drop off into the basketball courts as the current condition.
Right. And, the lower photos show the playground area. And as you can see, a lot of concrete and, the use of wood chips or wood fiber. Nowadays I think on all our new playgrounds, we put in safety surfacing, the rubberized safety surfacing throughout the entire park. So we're going to be improving this area, making it more naturalistic, and also not only fully ADA accessible, but in fact, more going beyond that to be inclusive as well. This is by current plan, meaning the plan that we are hoping to, that we will be constructing. You can see the yellow dotted lines are all ADA accessible pathways. Some of them will not, some of the pathways will be, existing pathways that aren't ADA accessible. But otherwise, every major feature, the courts, will be accessible not only from the street. There are these, short little paths that come from the sidewalk on Martin Luther King Boulevard to the courts. They'll be accessible from there as well as within the park. The children's play area will be accessible as well. And we're going to be installing a new amphitheater near the school building nearby. That'll be usable for outdoor classrooms, as well as for any kind of special event in the park.
Aldo, if I could just jump in really quickly on those few paths that are not ADA accessible, I just want to note that based on ADA regulations, there's a percentage of pathways and entrances that are required within a facility to be ADA accessible. And even with those few that we weren't able to make ADA accessible, we are far exceeding the percentages that are required. And the only way that those ones could be made ADA accessible would be to remove that historic pudding stone and the historic walls that are surrounding them. But I just wanted to make sure to point out that even with those few that we weren't able to, we are far exceeding the requirements of ADA.
Great. And just one more thing, there are these gathering areas you'll see just above the one of the tennis courts, where there are going to be picnic areas, etc. These gathering areas, are new, and they'll be, much more functional than what was there before, which was a kind of what's the word you used, Lauren?
It's almost like a quad, but it was just pathways that went down a really steep slope. So it was steep enough that you couldn't even really put a functional bench in that space.
Right. I think, it had that X configuration, very much like Brophy Park in East Boston. And my recollection of Brophy Park is that it's also on a steep slope too. Here, we're making this now a bit more functional and more accessible as well. Let's see, next slide. So this is this slide, and the next slide will show the new plan's accessibility. You can see the red lines mean that it's not, paths are not accessible. So if you're trying to get to the basketball courts, you can't get there via the sidewalk. you know, and really you can't get there from here. Even the little bit of blue you see here is you can't get there by an accessible path to that area. Same thing with the tennis courts. The only recreational feature you can access is the you know, playground itself. Otherwise, all these entrances are not accessible, and basically the park is you know, limited accessibility as a result. Now, in the proposed accessibility, we've basically gone from a majority of paths inaccessible to now a majority of paths that are accessible, while at the same time retaining a lot of the historic fabric, as Lauren was mentioning. The basketball courts are now accessible, the tennis courts are, the playground, gathering areas, and our new gathering areas on either end of the athletic field area, those are going to be accessible as well. The entrances are accessible. And Lauren, as I understand it, that entrance in the middle between the two endpoints on Dale Street, that's also going to be accessible too, correct?
It's a set of stairs, but the stairs and the handrails will meet ADA compliance for stairways.
Oh, okay.
The other two that are along the Higginson Lewis School aren't marked as being accessible into the park and the amphitheater, and those will also be accessible coming into the from the school into the park.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to switch to a different, let's see. Okay, so I think I have to ask for a different screen. Okay, great. So this is basically some text going over a certain amount of what I've already described, how the majority of the paths now will be ADA accessible, entrances will be accessible, the children's play lot will be inclusive. And one thing that, you know, is really amazing to me is that because of the topography, you know, they're able to make for wheelchair access, not only on the lower levels of the prey structure, but also the upper levels as well. So that's pretty impressive. So now a child in a wheelchair can, you know, be higher up in those higher up levels of the play area as well, which I know, you know, kids usually enjoy being at that level as well. Again, basketball and tennis will be have, you know, accessible entrances. Concrete swales will be removed. The stormwater will be handled in two ways. One, under the you know, the big sports field, there's going to be an infiltration system, and it's going to be sourced both by the field and the park uphill of the field. For the park, part of the park downhill of the field, vegetated swales will connect to manholes and catch basins that will infiltrate into the soil in the park itself. Regarding trees here, we're going to have a net gain of 41 trees, 85 are going to be added, 44, however, are going to be removed. All have been approved by the city's tree warden. They're either invasive species or they're dead and dying and pose, you know, hazards because of the dead wood. One healthy tree is being removed for one of the ADA accessible paths. And so overall, there'll be a net positive in terms of adding trees, and existing trees will be pruned for tree health and longevity. And that's not an afterthought to keep, you know, these existing trees, some of them, you know, pretty good sized trees, keeping that canopy as healthy as possible will, you know, is, you know, a strategy for cooling and carbon sequestration as well. Landscape wise, as I mentioned, all the existing stone walls will remain. Most of the existing paths are going to remain as well, but some are going to be realigned for ADA accessibility. Putting stone outcroppings will remain with interpretive signage, and invasive vegetation is going to be cleared out for safety's sake and landscape improvement. So basically, it's going to be a more what's called a park-like landscape, where you see the tree canopy and you see lawn, but the what's called the understory layer is not going to be available because of safety concerns, public safety primarily. For shade and heat mitigation, we have various measures. The field is going to have a shaded dugout. The main basketball court will have a shaded bench. Picnic tables will be shaded. We're going to add 5 more drinking fountains. These, I think, are the water bottle fillers.
Correct.
That's right. And then water play, is going to have safety surfacing as well, and provide a critical cooling element. So that's about all I have at this point. Is there, we can open up to Q&A.
Well, thank you very much, Aldo. That was a very thorough overview, and a very exciting overview at that. I'm feeling wistful. I remember when I did the hearing order for installing water filling stations in our parks and playgrounds. It seemed as it was such a new idea, and now it's obviously part of all the specs, and it's great to see 5 of them included here. And Lauren, similarly, thank you for your leadership. I mean, this is absolutely exciting. This is a home run all around. I know that park well. My mother and sister both taught at the Higginson Lewis School. I know it was well used by the students. So, and I know that there have been, and I'm sure are now, students who use wheelchairs who attend that school. So to be able to make a more inclusive space for kids to play is kids of all ages is just tremendous. So I'm so glad you're keeping the stone walls. I think they're so important and beautiful, but I'm also glad that you're adding more of that porous rubber surface, that you're making it obviously more accessible, that you're planting new trees. This is clearly something that we're all really, really excited about. So I don't have any questions. My statement is I'm so excited to put this before the entire council, as I will do on Wednesday. God willing, the only reason I wouldn't is if there's some technical change, but I will intend on pulling this for a vote on Wednesday, and then it should the money should be accessed thereafter. Although if you could get Michelle Goldberg a copy of those bullet points specifically,
Okay.
that would be really, really helpful just as we sort of draft our committee report. But I'm just very excited. I guess my only question is, provided we vote on this, and I anticipate it'll be unanimous on Wednesday, what phase are we in the renovation? I know it's about a $6.5 million renovation. When's the big ribbon cutting going to be, where I, as a private citizen, can come and bring my daughter to hopefully play on this playground? Do we have any idea when this will all be completed?
Although, do you want me to jump in on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the design is 100% complete. We bid the project in August and are currently working on the bid review. We're hoping that we will be able to award the contract within the coming month or so. The plan is to start construction in the spring, and then it would be approximately a year's worth of construction, just because it is quite a substantial project.
Sure.
And I just wanted to double check on a couple of quick things just to throw out there for the budget is actually a $7.7 million estimate for the park. And then the other thing I just wanted to clarify from the bullet points, Aldo, is the rubber surfacing is going to be on the playground, but the water play is actually on a hard surface, which is our standard for parks. So the water play is not on rubber surfacing, because sometimes that can get a little bit slick.
Okay.
Only clarification I wanted to make, but the playground will have the rubber surfacing.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually, now that you've
just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
And so we think, barring any sort of unforeseen delays, which may happen, we'd be looking at the summer of 2023, where there will be a lovely ribbon cutting and we'll all be able to access this. And you had mentioned, I think this is an Olmsted designed park, and you're going to, for the most part, keep the pathways as they are, recognizing there may be some changes for ADA compliance, which, in my opinion, as a historian, is more important to have ADA compliance than keeping them perfectly historically accurate. So it sounds like you're doing the best to satisfy both of those goals, which is important. I'm excited. I think this is great work all around, and this is going to be a wonderful addition to our city. So that's all I have. Councillor Flynn, any questions, thoughts, concerns?
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. And just to say thank you to Aldo and to Lauren for your presentations and as the vice chair of the Civil Rights Committee, I spend most of my time on that committee working on how we can improve city services for persons with disabilities. And what you're doing here is exactly that. You're giving young children the opportunity to also play and have some fun in the playground and enjoy it and be with their friends and be with their family. So, just as a city resident, it makes me so proud to see parks like this, parks across the city, making improvements for our children with disabilities. So I just want to say thank you, not just from me, but really from the residents of Boston who really know the importance of making sure that our parks are accessible to young kids, persons with disabilities. So thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. Well said. I don't see any other counselors. I don't believe we have any individuals signed up for. Oh, there are two attend. Oh no, that's Kathy and Chantel. Would Michelle? Is there any members of the or are there any members of the public who had signed up to testify?
Signups.
No signups, I believe. Great. Okay. Well, I don't know, Lauren, Aldo, are there any concluding remarks before I gavel this hearing out?
No, I'm really excited about the project too. And Councilor Flynn, thank you for the comments about the ADA compliance with everything, because we are trying to go above and beyond that. And I know we've met with Commissioner McCosh from the Disability Commission, and she's really excited about it as well. So
that's great. Well, this is, I wish we had more hearings like this, because this is just wonderful news all around. Keep up the great work, Lauren. Keep up the great work, Aldo. We will, on behalf of Councilor Flynn and myself, we're going to urge all colleagues to vote in support of Docket 1013 on Wednesday. I would suggest you will have a very favorable vote on Wednesday, and just keep up the great work. We look forward to being at the ribbon cutting in a couple of years. So seeing no more opportunities for testimony, Docket 1013 and the Committee on the Environment, Sustainability and Parks is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.